Well, we have severe weather chances today and tomorrow across the northern plains and also the risk of flooding for areas that were previously in drought. So we have this stalled frontal boundary across Nebraska into northern Iowa and across Wisconsin. North of that, we have ongoing showers and thunderstorms, but this boundary is going to lift north or start to again today. And that'll be the focus for more storm development late Monday into Monday night. And then again, late Tuesday as a cold front comes in. So those dew points are going to march back north after temporarily going south overnight. So very humid air across Minnesota, Iowa, into Nebraska here over the next 24 to 36 hours. But that cold front will flush out that humidity tomorrow night, but it will also produce some more storms. So we have pretty broad area of a slight risk of severe weather, level 2 out of 5, in particular, some large hail and also a little bit of a tornado threat, mostly western Nebraska. That's where the significant tornado parameter gets a little higher today, more shear and enough energy there, whereas further east, not going to warm up as much and get enough of that cape as we had in the afternoon. So here's forecast shear, high enough across Nebraska, combined with cape values that are going to be pretty high, in excess of 3,000 joules, and then a more narrow area of energy across southern Minnesota, enough to produce some hail and wind, but the tornado threat really further to the west here across South Dakota into western Nebraska, where again, they'll just heat up a little bit more and have some higher shear values. And then tomorrow, the cold front will produce mainly some hail and wind threat, but also isolated tornado chance. So here's that redevelopment this afternoon across southern Minnesota, and then we'll also see some cells pop up across South Dakota and Nebraska. These are the storms that could produce potentially some tornadoes as we head into the evening. And then as I mentioned, tomorrow, that slight risk lines up with that cold front that'll be sweeping across Minnesota, Iowa, and Nebraska right at that peak heating time of the day. Low risk of tornadoes, pretty isolated, but if there are going to be some tornadoes, it'll probably be in eastern Minnesota or northwestern Wisconsin. We'll also have that broad area of higher energy along the cold front as we head into the late afternoon hours. And so that's why we'll see that severe threat really extend all the way into Texas, up into Minnesota along the front. But the significant tornado parameter is highest across northeastern Minnesota, which had tornadoes last week, and up until just the last week or two, non-existent severe weather, really, especially for northern Minnesota. So tomorrow, storms will fire late afternoon, early evening along that cold front, again, all the way down to the southwest across Nebraska and Kansas, and then these will track east. So initial development is when we have the best chance of a few tornadoes, and then it'll turn mostly into a high wind and hail threat. But we also have a flood watch for most of Minnesota, eastern North Dakota. These were areas that were in drought basically much of the last few years, but now the faucet is on, and it is stuck on. 7-day additional rainfall, several inches on top of several inches that have fallen over the last few days, and more broadly, a very wet spring in June so far. So we'll be watching for flash flooding and river levels to keep rising, which is a little unusual in summer, but we'll have to watch the Mississippi and Minnesota rivers.